Shavua Tov and good morning, continuing the theme of Chol HaMoed. Last week we talked about the general environment and behavior and what's expected of us, how to feel spiritually over Chol HaMoed. Now we need to go into the actual melachot, what's permissible to be done, what's forbidden to be done on Chol HaMoed. So let's go back to the Torah to understand the source of all of this. The Torah only expressly says that it's forbidden to do work on Yom Tov itself. The Torah says, "B'yom harishon mikra kodesh kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu." Over and over again, the Torah always expresses the first and the last day, the seventh day with Pesach or the eighth day with Sukkot, that's the day when it's forbidden to do melechet avodah. It doesn't actually say explicitly that it's forbidden to do melacha on Chol HaMoed. Nonetheless, the Gemara in Hagigah has a whole discussion about trying to find different sources as to regards to how we know that the Torah prohibits work on Chol HaMoed. So, for example, one source the Gemara brings is that the pasuk says, "Et Hag HaMatzot Tishmor," guard the festival of Pesach. Shiv'at Yamim Tochal Matzot, 7 days eat matzot. But from the juxtaposition, "Et Hag HaMatzot Tishmor," Shiv'at Yamim, the Gemara wants to learn that actually what it means to be saying is keep Pesach for 7 days, i.e., don't do work for 7 days, and so on. There are various sources in the Gemara there, which discuss both from the Torah itself and also using logic that the Torah prohibits doing work on Chol HaMoed. So, to summarize, the Torah explicitly only forbids melacha on the first and last days of the respective chagim. However, the Chachamim and the Gemara learn that from various sources and also using logical inferences and arguments that it is forbidden, the Torah prohibits to do work on Chol HaMoed. The question is, what is the nature of these sources learned out in the Gemara? And this is important, meaning, what we're asking now is it really forbidden from the Torah to do work on Chol HaMoed, or is it a rabbinic prohibition? What's the difference? Like we've discussed many times in the past. If we have a doubt whether something is permissible or not, if we hold it's forbidden from the Torah, we'd have to be strict. If we hold it's forbidden from the Hachamim, we could be more lenient depending on the circumstances. And so the question really is, which was discussed greatly between the Rishonim, is melacha on Chol HaMoed, is work during these days forbidden from the Torah, from the Hachamim? So some of the Rishonim, Rashi and others, held that it's forbidden from the Torah, like the sources we just discussed in the Gemara. The Gemara brings various pesukim to try to prove this. But you see from the Gemara was searching for verses in the Torah to show that it's forbidden to do work on Chol HaMoed. And so you see from this that work on Chol HaMoed is forbidden from the Torah. As I said, this was the view of Rashi, the She'el taught, some of the Geonim, and other Rishonim as well, that work on Chol HaMoed is forbidden from the Torah based on these sources in the Gemara. However, Tosfot asked on this view, Rabbeinu Tam asked that if this is the case, how do we find that the Hachamim are going to learn, B'ezrat Hashem, that various distinctions, that sometimes you're allowed to do work, sometimes you're not allowed to do work, certain melachot are permissible, certain melachot are not permissible. If it's the nature of work on Chol HaMoed is forbidden from the Torah, how did the Hachamim have the ability to be able to distinguish? And therefore, Tosfot came up with the view that actually, no, melacha on Chol HaMoed is forbidden only by the Hachamim. And this is why the Hachamim have the ability to be able to tell us this you can do, this you can't do, and give you certain leniencies and certain exceptions. Either Gemara brings us various sources which seem to indicate that it's from the Pesukim, it's from the Torah. Those are what we call asmachta be'alma, which means these are just hints. When the Gemara brings these verses, it doesn't mean to bring it to show you that it's forbidden from the Torah. It's bringing it just to show you a source as a hint from the Torah to this concept. But really, the nature of the work on Chol HaMoed is forbidden from the Hachamim, not from the Torah. This was the second view. There is a third compromise view, actually, just very quickly. By the way, I should add, the Rambam and the Rosh held off this view, that it's forbidden only from the Hachamim, and the verses mentioned in the Gemara are only an asmachta, only a hint. The third view of the Ramban and others is a compromise view, which is that really the Torah, from the Torah, there is a concept of work forbidden on Chol HaMoed, like the Gemara says, but only very certain things which have a great toil and certain things. But generally speaking, it's forbidden from the Hachamim, but certain activities were forbidden from the Torah. This was the third view in between that to fulfill what the Gemara says it's forbidden from the Torah. That's talking about very certain melachot, but generally speaking, other melachot which were forbidden by the Hachamim. So three views, and the question is how to be posek. The problem is the Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo himself. It's a problem here because on the one hand, in the Bet Yosef, he seems to indicate that it's forbidden from the Torah, but from various rulings in the Shulchan Aruch, it implies he holds it's the Rabbanan. HaMoed was of the conclusion, and this is a discussion in the Haronim, how to be posek, or that the view of the Shulchan Aruch is like Rambam and like the Rosh, and likely like the Rif as well, that it is forbidden from the Hachamim only, not from the Torah, and therefore that has huge ramifications. We will see that the Mishnah Berurah seem to take on a more stricter approach, that it's the Oraita, and we'll see the ramifications of this Bezrat Hashem. In conclusion, we discussed the origins of the work on Chol HaMoed being forbidden, three views in the Rishonim, and the final ruling with all of this. So we'll continue this Bezrat Hashem tomorrow. Have a lovely day.